2.5 years ago, Lindsey Simmons was sitting in her apartment with her dog, 6 weeks into a layoff, asking herself the question every new independent consultant eventually asks: who am I to do this? Lindsey is a fractional recruiting and HR consultant who spent nearly 2 decades in talent acquisition. The last stretch inside B2B SaaS, SaaS, and tech companies. When she went out on her own, she had the expertise. What she didn't have was the certainty. No polished niche, no perfect process, a first website that she now describes generously as something that needed work. And still, every single client she has ever landed has come through a referral, and she has never once had an empty pipeline. In this conversation, Lindsey gets into what she calls the permission structure, that internal voice that says, who am I to hang out my own shingle? And exactly how she redirected that voice. She also talks about how she turned a fly fishing trip in Montana into entirely new business, a retreat for leaders, women leaders in tech. And she says something about being one person that completely reframes the fear of niching down. My name is AJ Riedel, and this is Thriving Through, the podcast where each week I have conversations with self-employed consultants about what it really takes to build a profitable, sustainable consulting business. Let's dive right in. Welcome to this episode of the Thriving Through podcast. Lindsey, I am so delighted to have you on the show today.
Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Take me back to the end of 2024. You'd just been laid off. You'd spent 6 weeks hunting with your dog, sitting with yourself for the first time without something next lined up. Walk me through what that actually felt like.
Yeah. It was I was at a point in my life where I was ready for uncertainty. And so where at earlier points in my career, it may have given me a lot of anxiety and I might have been thinking like, oh no, what do I do? This was more excited to reflect and excited for time to really think and make more clear decisions around how I wanted to move forward. Um, and so being able to really take not only the like initial 6 weeks of like wrapping my head around, all right, what's the plan? What am I going to do? But really ultimately taking kind of 6 months to write, be outside, hike, think about what I'm looking to do. What have I done? What did I like? What did I not like? What do I want to bring forward? What do I want to leave behind? So it was really just a big time of like self reflection and introspection. Um, and I think it was only further enabled by the time I was able to be outside and hike with my dog, to go hunting, to just be in nature, and away from the screens that I've spent most of my career on. And it both let me to understand I enjoy the work that I do. I just want to do it differently. And I had a lot of conversations with mentors and people I really admired and had partnered with over my career. And um, I had bought the web domain for LindaInHR in 2020. I just knew at some point I wanted to do some sort of consulting. I didn't know what that really looked like. And my first consulting client, I was actually speaking with her because she's also become one of my closest and dearest friends. And she said, "You've been talking about this since we met. Like, this is your time. What are you like? Hello." I was like, "Yeah, actually, thanks for helping me connect those dots." It's just so funny. It's like the things you can connect and then what you like need others to help you see. And so I started to build my first version of the LindaInHR website, bless its heart, and then realized paying designers is definitely worth every penny. And I got connected with another fractional group, Three Hive Strategy, and was freelancing with some of their clients, and then started to get some of my own clients referred, and so yeah, it's just kind of been a real evolution.
And during that whole evolution time, what was the one thing you were most unsure about?
How I was doing what I was doing. um, it really was like this phrase is like so overused, but really was like building the plane as I was flying it. I'd obviously been in-house and had consulted a little bit, but just sort of figuring out like what is my process? How do I what who are the people I want to work with? Are there areas I want to focus in? I was definitely afraid of like niching down and having that being a limiting factor, but like when you zoom out, it's like I'm one person. So guess what? Like this is going to be relatively finite. So that's actually a good thing, not a bad thing. But you also kind of learn as you go. You say yes to things that are totally new. I said yes to um, working with a particular industry I had no experience with, but turns out as a recruiter, you can adapt, and I can learn what I found is almost any industry and find really excellent people within it. And so it was both a lot of like navigating uncertainty, but also telling myself, how many years have you done this? Like you have the experience to do this. So just show up and do what you know how to do. So while there was uncertainty, it was also like navigating and managing the self-talk, because I think that's really what trips people up the most.
True. Yes. Navigating, managing the self-talk. Yeah.
Mhm.
So it sounds like you recognized you felt a resistance to niching down. So you were probably seeing all the advice that says you got to niche, niche, niche. And you resisted that. And it sounds like initially you also took some clients that were outside of your industry.
Mhm.
So how did you ultimately end up on that niching? I mean, who is your ideal client?
I think it really goes back to like where my bulk of my experience has been is in like um, B2B SaaS companies, now also working with more like PLG and AI startups, and really focusing in on building hiring processes, focus more on technical, like product design, engineering, hiring, and also still being able to tap into the like G&A and go to market side of the house when needed. But I think, you know, doing what I've done and knowing what I know, I feel most comfortable and competent in the um, B2B SaaS and more AI forward space.
Okay.
But I've also enjoyed working with clients in the CPG space, in the mechanical engineering space, in structural engineering spaces. And it's been really fun to learn more in depth about those industries. And I've also actually found I really enjoy working with companies in the renewable space as well. But I'd say like my bread and butter focus is really like B2B SaaS. I can hire anybody within those companies.
Okay. And you threw out a couple acronyms. So SaaS is software as a service. What
Yes.
is PLG?
Product led growth companies. So it's more of a kind of a long tail. You've got a lot more individual user customers, and can also scale up to the enterprise level, but just a much broader customer base that is less sales focused.
Okay. It's interesting that you have also taken jobs in other areas. You've worked with other kinds of clients. I know from my experience, had a very narrow niche when I was a consultant, and I strayed outside of that niche once into a very different industry, and it did not go well. It was a very unpleasant, difficult project. It sounds like you haven't had that same experience.
I think when I think about hiring, I think it's a lot about process. It's a lot about understanding what you need in this role and being able to help leaders get really clear on the experience profile that they're targeting, um, and then what that process looks like and who they want in the interview conversations and what they're evaluating. And through those conversations, you can really understand a company, an industry, a team, and then what that specific type of role needs and the type of candidate profiles to target. I think if I maybe straight into like academia, I do that is not like my mother worked at a university for her whole career, and just hearing their hiring processes was very out of my depth. And so I think generally speaking, having those kinds of conversations really helped me learn. And ultimately, I think if there was something that I absolutely didn't understand, I would have flagged it and said, I don't think I'm your girl, but I can certainly help you find someone who is going to be, a real value add here. But yeah, I think it's just focusing more on the overall process of it, and work like walking through those steps and having those conversations that allows at least allowed me to really learn and understand and get up to speed pretty quickly.
That sounds like your process. It's your process that you take them through that enables you to do that.
Mhm.
When we talked earlier, you said that every single client you've landed has come through referrals.
Mhm.
That's a real strength, but I want to understand it better because it can be both a strength and a disadvantage. What does it actually feel like to run a business where the next client is always one relationship away from showing up or not? Because you're dependent on referrals for getting those next clients, which builds in a certain amount of uncertainty. How does it feel?
It honestly feels really validating. I feel very honored that people that I've worked with see me as a trusted partner, that they would refer their former clients, friends, professional connections to partner with me. Um, and also, I think it's because it is just me. I am more acutely aware of how much work I can take on. And I also have my own respective network, of referral partners that I work with, where when things come in and I don't have capacity, I can hand off with confidence and know that like these relationships are still intact and people are getting support that they need as well. So I would say I don't really consider it's not something that gives me anxiety. It's something that really helps me lean more into gratitude.
Okay. So have you ever had a month where you didn't have a referral coming in, where your pipeline is empty?
Um, I honestly have not. It's timing wise, it has really worked itself out. And where I've had referrals come in that I don't have capacity for, that's allowed me to really hand that off more strategically too, which has been great.
So you've had the opposite problem. You've got too many referrals coming in, not enough, which is a nice place to be.
I don't hate it. I really I really am grateful for it and appreciate the confidence.
You described your first year as high and low. You used this term today and when we met earlier, building the plane as you're flying it. What was the hardest part of that? And I'm not talking about logistics, but the actual experience of not knowing what you were doing and going forward anyway.
Yeah, I would say it was really a confidence issue, of like knowing that I can do these things, and then also thinking, who am I to just be like hanging up my own little shingle and like starting my own shop? Like, who am I to do that? And it's a more of like a permission structure with who am I and what am I doing? Whereas like I'd previously tied the rest of my career and a lot of my self-worth to like the company I worked for, the title I had, like all the bells and whistles and things. And I, over that like 6 month period of reflection, realized like ultimately those things didn't give me like any, they didn't give me what I thought they did. It was more like feeding the ego. And then when you don't have that, it really is thinking like, who am I as a whole person? And then how does that show up professionally? Um, And, because for my job, I'm on LinkedIn all the time. And so everybody's like, oh, I'm so great. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm like, who am I to talk about me and myself and I and this little like HR like recruiting consulting practice I want to stand up. So I think it was more that like internal mental battle was the like biggest point of uncertainty. And again, just like having to redirect the like internal monologue, like, how to do these things. You are doing these things. So just let's keep going.
I love that. You just articulated something that I think will resonate with listeners, that because I think most of us, when we were starting out, have gone through that who am I? Who do I think I am?
Mhm.
All these other people that are on LinkedIn have years of experience and lots of big track record, and you're just starting out. So it was, and I like that you that you recognize the mental, and that you did the mental work to sort of bat away that question. I mean, that there's a certain part of our brain that's saying, who do you think you are? And you were
Mhm.
able to overcome that voice that said, who do you think you are? By reminding yourself that you've done this, you've got the expertise, you're doing it.
Yeah, and also I would say because during that time I was also learning a lot of new hobbies. I was learning how to shoot sporting clays. I was learning how to field hunt. I was learning how to fly fish, which take a real sense of like presence and focus um, when you're learning those. It also really helps you understand how to like quiet your mind and really be present and get clear on what you're doing. And so being able to bring that same level of like practice and focus to my work life and also talking to myself being like, who am I? I am someone who is learning to fly fish. I've caught fish. I have shot clays. I've hunted birds. I can do all these things. I can do this. I've done this for many, many years. I've just started doing these things. So it was just that convincing of like, yeah, no, I'm capable of doing this stuff. It's gonna be fine.
I want to switch to something else. So you've got the whole recruiting piece. After a couple of years, you feel like it's kind of humming along. You're getting enough clients, enough leads through your referrals. That business is going pretty well. Now you have a whole another side of your business that you're building, and that's bringing leaders outdoors to learn fly fishing. So what
Yes.
you're doing is it's a passion, and you're translating your corporate event background into something completely new. So tell me everything about this. And you're doing this in the form of retreats. Who are you doing this for? And, who's it for? What do they walk away with? All of that. Tell me.
Awesome. I'm focused on women leaders in tech specifically because that's who I work with. And I went to my first like big fly fishing trip last summer in Montana. I fished the Madison River with Real Women Fly Fishing Adventures, and their guides were so incredible. And I got to fish with Lorianne Murphy and Rachel Finn, who are two absolute icons and like really strong women who are some of the original gangsters of the fly fishing space. And their guides that were part of the program, I just really appreciated how they communicated. They set a really clear tone at the start of every day, grounding everything in safety. Their instructions were really clear, real time, actionable feedback. And because they found like started every day with like the safety structure, how things are going to work in the boat, and then we built on that from there. I became an amazing, a much better angler by the end of the week, and was just thinking just about how if they communicated in a different way, it could have been a really different and unpleasant experience, but it was really encouraging, really supportive. And I just was thinking about how many conversations I've had over the years with leaders who are uncomfortable with feedback conversations or who are too wrapped up in their work, and how much being on a river out of self service, focused on the water, overwhelmed by the beautiful mountains that are surrounding you, I I just thought this would be a really great reset and also learning experience to get leaders out of our cities, away from our laptops, into the water, learn something different that really requires your whole focus, also calms your nervous system and puts you in a place where you genuinely feel your own smallness. And while we're sitting behind our laptops and doing our day to day, you can think like what you're doing, the weight of the world relies on. And when you're out there, you realize it does not. Everything is going to be fine. And so it also really helps with kind of a perspective shift of how you view yourself within your own work. And so I said to Lorianne, hey, I think this could be a really great opportunity for a lot of women leaders I work with. And I just want to get more women on the water. So why not? And she said, that sounds like a great idea. Let's build something. And so we're building a retreat called Touch Grass to get more women leaders out on the water and bring this patience practice back to their own work.
And how are you getting the word out about that?
Um, we are posting on LinkedIn. We are doing individual outreach and also Lorianne's fly fishing network. She's also putting that out in her newsletter as well. And it's on my website
And how are you
and my
doing so far?
Instagram.
And
So
you're launching in July. How many people do you have signed up?
yes, the retreat is the last week of July. So far, we have 4 people signed up. We have 10 spots total. And we're really excited for the first year of our touch grass adventures and really excited to continue to build out for next year too.
This is, does this feel different in terms of sort of your go-to-market strategy from how you built your recruiting side of your business?
Yes and no. I did more like big corporate events and retreats when I worked in finance and was doing more like campus recruiting. So, kind of taking that skill set and putting it into this capacity. But also, this is the first time I'm doing this. So, it is also new and unknown. And there's a lot of variables in the equation, but continuing to talk to myself and say, you're surrounded by people who do these things. You're being guided by people who've done this. And so just trust that process and know like launching anything the first time can be uncertain, but also trusting myself to figure it out.
You talked about, you said figuring it out in real time.
Mhm.
What does that actually mean right now, day to day?
Day to day right now is focusing on tightening up the programming schedule and learning, about how to get event insurance and all of the other like safety precautions that I'll need, and just making sure that I am providing a really great experience that is as safe and comfortable for everyone as possible. And so just constantly thinking through different details and emailing back and forth with Lorianne to just gut check myself and like, are we good here? Do we think we need something else? And so it's been a real collaborative process that's been really fun.
What's the biggest challenge you're navigating right now?
Um, part I was navigating more of a logistical issue with figuring out how to get a lot of the swag that I want. Designed and how do I get this delivered? And I actually just connected with a really amazing company that is going to do all of it for me. So that has taken a lot of stress off my plate as well.
And um, I wrote some notes. I'm just checking on them. So the recruiting and the search work and the retreats. Right now, I would assume that the retreat is taking a lot of your time because it's coming up.
Um, yes and no. It is. like obviously during the day, I'm focused more on the recruitment consulting. And then in the evenings is when I'm doing a lot more of the touch grass work. And, there's Tech Week for New York City's next week. So I'll be going to some of those events just to touch base and get the word out. Because also part of it was last year when I went to some Tech Week events, I was talking about my hunting and fly fishing, and everyone that I spoke with was so excited about it. So it's like, well, maybe I'll pop back in and just get the word out that, hey, I built something.
Yeah. You said that somewhere in this journey over the last couple of years, you realized that that true passion was being in community with women leaders outdoors. Take me back to the moment that you knew that, you realized that.
Oh, wow. Honestly, I think it might have been the first time that I went. I'm on the board of Juliana's Anglers, which is a ladies sporting club. And the first time I met up with them was for a sporting clays lesson. And I was so nervous. I didn't know anybody, and this was like a totally new thing. Everyone was so welcoming and encouraging. And even after our lesson, we met up with the experienced shooters on the course, and everyone was just having so much fun. And it was just such a joyful day and a beautiful day outside. And I just was reflecting on my drive back to the city. I like hadn't that was just so unique, and I hadn't experienced anything like that before, and I wanted to spend way more time and energy in doing things like that with that group. And the more I've done that, the more I've realized I want to just try to bring more people into the circle.
Do you see where you're 2.5 years in? Are you ahead of or behind where you wanted to be?
I would say I am ahead of and just in a different place than I thought I would be, because the retreat stuff really just happened as an idea a year ago, and not something that I'd ever really considered. And as far as the consulting piece, I think I'm definitely much further ahead than where I would be, and it feels good.
Where do you see your business, both sides of it, in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I'm hoping to really continue to strike a balance with the recruitment consulting. I really enjoy that work. I really enjoy helping leaders build um, thoughtful processes and hire great people. Um, and I also want to spend more time outside. So hopefully, I'm looking to really build out the Touchgrass ecosystem into a broader kind of sporting leadership um, retreat experience where we're not only fly fishing, but there is an opportunity to do sporting clays. There's an opportunity to learn field hunting. There's an opportunity to learn horsemanship. And so really excited to get out on the water and start with touch grass, and then continue to expand that as well.
And what do you think the biggest challenges you're going to face in getting where you want to go?
I love New York City so much, but I think that it is coming time to find some bigger space outside of the city that I love. So I think that move is going to be probably the biggest challenge. But I think I'm just going to end up going north of the city, so I don't have to be too far away from it.
Got it. What about the whole business development area and building the businesses? What are your challenges there?
I think continuing to get the word out and build the community. I'm kind of again learning as I go on marketing and community building, and so that I think is going to be an interesting learning curve to walk through.
And one last question. As you know, the title of this podcast is Thriving Through. So, one last question. Are you thriving?
I would say yes. Thriving through chaos. It's really what it is.
And with that, Thank you so much, Lindsey, for being on the show. For those of you listening or watching, Lindsey's contact information, her website, and her LinkedIn URL will be in the show notes. So check it out, check them out there. And Lindsey, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you again for having me. This was so fun. I really appreciated the conversation.
Well, I enjoyed it. And for those of you listening or watching, until next time, keep thriving through. There was one thing Lindsey said that I want to make sure lands before you move on. She said, done beats perfect. Momentum is the strategy. She didn't wait until she had the perfect niche, a polished process, or a website she was proud of. She launched anyway. She said yes to clients outside her comfort zone. She figured it out in real time. And she's ahead of where she thought she'd be. I want you to hear that. Because if you're waiting until you're ready, you're waiting for something that doesn't come before you start. You get ready by doing. Lindsey, thanks for sharing how you're building your profitable recruiting business and a new corporate retreat program for women leaders in tech. If you want to connect with Lindsey, check the show notes for her website and LinkedIn. And before you go, if you're listening to this and your pipeline feels unpredictable, or you're wondering which activities are actually working, I built something for you. It's called the Consultant's Marketing Scorecard. It's free and it takes less than 15 minutes. And you'll find exactly where your marketing is strong, where it's weak, and what to fix first. No generic advice, no sales pitch, just clarity. You'll find the link in the show notes. Go take the assessment. Thank you for listening to the Thriving Through podcast. If you liked this episode, I have 3 quick asks of you. 1, click subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you watch or listen to make sure you don't miss future episodes. 2, leave me a review on your podcast app so other self-employed consultants can find and benefit from the podcast too. And 3, to put the ideas from today's episode into action, head over to ajriedel.com/podcast for the show notes and other resources. Until next time, keep thriving through.